I, like everyone else on this planet, avoid the feeling of boredom. I do everything I can not to feel bored. Watch TV shows, listen to music, put on some podcasts. I even listen to TED Talks to just fill the silence between the moments. And I know I'm not the only person who does that. We all do it. We're all familiar with this feeling of boredom. And in the same time, we're all poorly equipped on how to deal with it. And thus, we avoid it using everything that's around us. Don't think it's about you? Then, when was the last time you were truly bored? No phone, no music, no podcast, no book, no any activity, just you and your thoughts, and going to sleep before bed and thinking about something for 5 minutes before you doze off doesn't really count. And despite our dislike of boredom, it evolved to help us. It signals that we are unengaged and we are in need of activity that could satisfy us or engage us or would be interesting for us. And literally, it's a way of our brain saying, what you're doing right now doesn't have a meaning, it's boring for me, find something more interesting. Which sounds very confusing right now at the beginning, that I'm like throwing this information at you without any previous information given to you. But I promise, it'll make sense in the end. And that's why I'm throwing it to you, to just make you more interested in this topic. Perhaps, maybe it'll work. I have no idea. And so without this feeling of boredom, we would just get stuck in unfulfilling things, and we would just get stuck doing something that we don't like. And this is actually a very good thing that our brain does, and shows us that we should change our focus or change our job path or career or change our activity right now, which is a little bit easier and much more useful than it sounds just now. And the thing is, our brain works 24/7. When you're sleeping, you might think that you're resting, but your brain listens to everything. It plans your future. It kind of puts on a shelf information throughout the day and decides like, oh, okay, I'm gonna keep this, I'm gonna delete this, I'm gonna, and it kind of frees up some space and also stores some information, and like the knowledge that you need to know, it kind of like separates, like, okay, you were preparing for chemistry test, okay, we're gonna keep it in. You were scrolling and searching for something, or like we're scrolling for 2 hours, okay, we're gonna delete this because you need this mental space for chemistry test tomorrow. And it works 24/7. And this boredom, and when we feel bored, when we intentionally schedule time for boredom, or when we just do activities that don't take up much mental space, doing dishes, or when we're in the shower, or because many creative ideas and a lot of breakthroughs appear to us when we're doing something easy, something that doesn't take much of our mental space, and then we're like, wow, maybe I should write a book. Yeah, maybe I should start a podcast. Maybe I should do this. So since our brain works 24/7, the healthiest thing neuroscientists say that we can give it as a resting point, or as, I don't know, to cool off, is, well, hopefully you guessed it. It's boredom. But I wouldn't make this video if it all would be so easy, if I could just tell you that you need to feel bored and you're like, okay, good, I take your advice with a grain of salt and I'll think about it, but I think overall it's a good idea. No, because boredom is like procrastination. Boredom infuses in us some of the feelings that we avoid, and it makes us feel uncomfortable, and we're just like, okay, I don't feel okay right now, I'll just scroll, or like put on a TV show. Because, jokes aside, and seriously ask yourself this question. I don't need an answer for that, because there are people watching it and I'll never know everyone's answer to this question. But just ask yourself, when was the last time you were truly bored and you embraced this boredom instead of just like putting on something? Because it's very easy to just, when you're bored, when you have nothing to do, and you understand that nothing is playing in the background, you're just all alone, so your thoughts silence, and you understand that it gets uncomfortable because you start thinking about things that you've been avoiding and you've been numbing all the time, and you're like, no, I'll watch this TV show for 100 times because I don't want to, and it's so easy to shadow our head, our brain, or things that we need to work through with this distractions, content distractions. We can also distract ourselves with people, which is not as common as distracting yourself with social media, but we could also get immersed into people in the community so much that and kind of get to the point of where I need to go to the store and I should call a friend because I don't want to go along, I don't want to be with my thoughts. So we could also, it's not only about social media, it's about immersing yourself in different things just to avoid the things that you would want to deal with, or ideally you wanted to deal with or need to deal with, but you avoid. So there are a couple factors of why we avoid boredom. But the first one, as I said again, I mentioned it shortly, we feel discomfort with stillness. We feel discomfort in doing nothing because we used to always doing something. We used to always be not, I don't want to say active, but actively doing something. We used to something. I don't even know how to call it. We used to doing something. Even when we sit and just look at, I don't know, one point in the wall, we could daydream, we could start thinking about other things. But the fact is, we were hardwired to avoid uncomfortable emotions, and stillness brings it. It brings uncomfortable emotions. It makes you think. It makes you dig deeper within yourself, and you start all the things that you've been avoiding kind of come to the surface, and you're forced to face them. And then you're like, okay, maybe not. I'll watch YouTube, I'll watch TV show, I'll listen to music, I'll return to it back. And then you numb it. And there is, I think, a moment where just like, you can't suppress it anymore. You're just gonna bounce. And that is interesting. That is interesting when it happens. When you start to kind of numb it all the time you just start numbing it, you can develop chronic boredom when nothing is interesting for you, because you've been numbing that boredom for so long that social media is not that interesting for you. No TV show is interesting for you. You've reached that level of dopamine hits that it just doesn't satisfy you. You have to like binge watch a new very cool TV show that you haven't seen to just kind of experience that. And that feeling of chronic boredom can last for months, for weeks, for years, when nothing satisfies you, when you look at life and you don't like anything. And that wouldn't have happened, because from my life, I've experienced that so many times when I just numbed it all. And now that I'm talking about it, and that now that I researched this topic, I understand how many times I felt it, and how many times I felt like I don't want to do anything. I just want to, I don't know, sleep, or just watch TV shows, or basically do nothing. How many times I felt that. And I could never pinpoint why. Like, what did I do wrong? I knew that there is like some parts social media is involved, and all my unhealthy habits with watching TV shows and movies, but I could never pinpoint it. And if you ever had a question about it, here's the answer. It's because, well, we suppress boredom. So let's get back to stillness. Actually, what I was talking about. Stillness, as I already mentioned, brings all these negative feelings and emotions. Not necessarily negative, because I don't think that there are like negative emotions that you can feel. It's just emotions that you need to feel. Anyway, I don't know. The explanation is it brings to the surface these uncomfortable feelings. It feels awkward. You can feel anxious. You can feel confused. You can feel angry that you were suppressing all this and weren't dealing with this problem. It can bring all kinds of emotions and feelings to the surface. That's why we avoid it. We don't want to deal with these emotions, because 99.9999999% of the time it's gonna bring not the emotions and feelings that you choose voluntarily to feel. And when we are faced with these emotions and feelings, it could also add on some unresolved issues that we have, or problems that we're also suppressing. We try to avoid boredom to the point of, I think everyone by now heard of the experiment that they did on boredom. I don't know why am I declaring it with such confidence. I just seen it and heard of it like without exaggeration, like 50 times, I think, in the last year. It's a very interesting experience just to showcase how people deal with boredom. I don't remember all the details, but basically the whole point was that they put people in an empty room for them to sit there for 30 minutes. They could electrocute themselves. They didn't have anything. They could only electrocute themselves. They were sitting, I guess, at the table without anything, and they had to sit with their thoughts for like 30 minutes or something, give or take. A vast majority of participants chose to electrocute themselves multiple times. And as I'm aware, I'm not sure, electroshock wasn't mild. It was somewhat painful, and people chose to feel pain rather than sit with their thoughts. They chose to hurt themselves rather than sit with their thoughts and face their own emotions and feelings and unresolved issues. So it's a universal thing. We are, for some reason, hardwired to avoid these negative emotions. And the next ones are kind of interlinked with the first one. The second one is we are afraid to face these inner thoughts because, again, it's uncomfortable. If you never thought about it twice and you've been working at some job, for example, for 3 years, and now suddenly your phone died, your headphones died, your phone died, and you in the metro going home, and you kind of understand that I had dreams. I remember when I was younger, I had dreams and I didn't want to work this job. And these are very hard conversations to have with ourselves, right? Because yes, we can find a person to blame. Like, why are we not like living our dream life or something? Why are we not achieving this, or why we're not working towards something? It's so easy to just, I don't know, blame someone. But at the end of the day, you understand that it's up to you. It's like, it's on you. If you've been living in life that you didn't want to live for a couple of years, for a couple of decades, it's really hard to have like one person to pinpoint it on and be like, okay, Steve is at fault here. Steve is at fault here because he told me something, this, and this, and this. Yes, you could do that, but at the end of the day, it's your life. And these inner thoughts, as I said, that we are so afraid of facing are extremely uncomfortable. I don't know, if I could get my issues resolved for me, I'd rather like electrocute myself 50 times rather than sit with my thoughts and resolve it all. I understand why they were doing it. I would also do it. It's I'm not exception. I'm not saying this, sitting here and saying that I wouldn't do it, that I love my thoughts so much that we would just have a blast together. No. All these inner thoughts and all these inner problems, they make you more anxious. That's why majority of people, when they eat, they watch TV shows and movies, or like YouTube, or some kind of contact, or they read, or they do something. They somehow entertain their mind because it gives you stress when you are alone with your thoughts. And I was talking with my friend about it, and she said, yeah, it's, I've heard that watching TV shows, like watching something while you're eating, your stress. For sure it does. You don't have to be faced with your own thoughts and your problems, and 100% is gonna bring stress. Yes. If, for example, your roof was leaking for 10 years and you've been like, I'll do it later. In 10 years, the problem is gonna become worse. Sure, you're not gonna be stressing yourself out if you're just gonna forget about it and it doesn't really like bother you. If it, for example, in the attic somewhere, you can put a pot and the rain is gonna drop little by little in that pot, and that's all. But in 10 years, that problem from the attic could affect your main house and you'll be stressed 10 times more rather than when you would just like fix that little hole in your roof. So when we ignore boredom, it allows us to ignore all these underlying questions we have within ourselves, all these questions that we want to answer, but I don't want to say can't, but that we don't want to, like with the roof example. The next one mainly comes from social media and not our hard wiredness as human beings. We, because of this time and age, feel the urge to always be productive. We feel the urge to always do something. We feel the urge that we need to resting is unproductive. If you're resting, okay, no. I adore this phrase that people use, I'll rest when I'm dead. And it's such a toxic phrase. And the funny thing is, I remember a couple of years ago I was using it. It was just like, yeah, I'll rest when I'm dead. I don't want I don't have time for this. I don't have time for rest. No, but how important it is. You even, okay, I'm gonna give you example which I don't even fully understand how it works, but it's true. If you're, for example, preparing for something where you're trying to gain weight and gain some muscles, you cannot gain them without rest. You have to let your muscles rest in order for them to, again, I'm not equipped in this, but you have to let them rest, to let them like fuel on what you ate, like, I don't know, some protein or whatever, and just grow little by little. Because if you're gonna overwork them, they're just gonna shrink. There won't be any space for growing. You have to let it absorb it. For example, if you have a plant and you're gonna constantly water it without waiting until it fully absorbs everything, you're just gonna drown that plant and it's gonna die. I think that's much better example, and the one that I fully understand, because the muscle growth, have no idea how it works. So because of this social media, and I think you already knew that, and you somehow in your conscious knew that I will be referring to this reason, and that's all. We are afraid of being seen idle and lazy, and that's why boredom in our head, it's like doing nothing, and doing nothing is, no, I'll better read, I'll better listen to a podcast, I'll better go run or do this, or even just like watch some motivational TikToks because they might help me. So because of this pressure and this business society puts on us that we have to do, that not like have to do, you want to be successful, you don't want to be like everyone else, you don't want to be average, well, you better act like it, because average people don't rest. No, that's not true. And somewhere along the lines, you have to stop following toxic productivity. But for everyone, it's their own timeline, because we're stuck in this loop of success and business and all these things. We view boredom as something vain. We shouldn't do it. It's useless. That's why. So these are 3 main reasons that I, while I was researching, found. There are, of course, many other reasons, but basically they all kind of come down to these 3 that I told you. And the interesting thing happens when we avoid boredom. As I said, one of the aspects is chronic boredom. But before that, we could also experience immense anxiety and anxiousness and worry and stress and all these things I told you, which you feel, and if you're gonna numb them, then you're gonna feel chronic boredom. So, and also, as I've mentioned and told you already, when we avoid boredom, something not very good happens. Let's put it this way. You could feel anxiety, you could feel anxiousness, you can feel stress and all these uncomfortable feelings, and if you're gonna suppress them even more, they're gonna backfire as chronic boredom, and then nothing will be interesting for you anymore. And that chronic boredom can also result into developing depression, or even further. When you numb all this anxiety and all these things and all these uncomfortable feelings, and when you try to always kind of keep yourself entertained, there is a high possibility that it's not going to be interesting for you anymore. All the social media and content is not going to be interesting for you anymore, and you're going to be seeking that adrenaline someplace else. And sometimes it could lead to seeking that adrenaline into very dangerous, life-threatening cases. It could be that you will find that you get this adrenaline rush when you're doing something dangerous and life-threatening, and something dangerous and life-threatening. That's enough examples. I do not know what examples to give you. I think you have a few in your head. But I didn't just decide to make this video to tell you why we avoid boredom and that's all. And, boredom is very good to have, because when you won't have it, you'll feel anxiety and you'll feel bad. No. Actually, there are much more benefits to feeling boredom, and this is what this part of the video is going to be about, the benefits. And there is actually, I don't remember where I found this quote anymore. I just have it written down in the outline for this video, but I like it, honestly, which is a very weird thing, because all the other quotes I found about boredom, they are cheesy for me, or I don't know, silly or something. Maybe this one is going to be silly or cheesy for you. But boredom acts like the brakes that allow productivity's engine to cool off. There's actually no off after cool, but I just decided to edit, so maybe that'll make this quote, not someone else's, but like mine, because I alter it. I don't think that's how it works, but let's move on. So if we're gonna take aside all the understandable and very straightforward benefits of boredom, that you are less prone to feel and fall into this chronic boredom, and you are less prone to feel the vastness of all these negative emotions. One of the main concepts and one of the main things that boredom improves is creativity, because as I told you in the example of washing dishes or doing some things that don't really require a lot of your mental space in your head, that's when you like focus on one thing and it doesn't really require you to fully immerse yourself into it. You start to wander in your head, and that's when the best ideas kind of come up to you. Every time when I'm in the shower or I'm brushing my teeth or, something like this, when I don't really think much about anything, it's where my best poems come to me, or like best rhymes in my head. And I'm like, oh my God, I have to, because I don't take my phone to the bathroom. I don't know, maybe sometimes, but mostly I don't. And I start getting this inspiration and get not only about poems, but like my life in general. And I come out of the shower so fresh. Not only I just out of the shower, I clean myself, blah blah blah, I also this like urge of inspiration. I'm like, wow, that's amazing. And that is actually so true, because there was a study that, again, I'm very bad at remembering details of the study, but people were asked to perform very boring tasks, like, for example, rewrite the phone book or something. What was it? It was copying phone book entries. Then they were asked to do some creative thing, and they were better doing something creatively than other group of people that had more interesting tasks than just as I already said, copying phone book entries. So and there are a myriad of studies on how boredom helps creativity, but one of the things is it helps creativity so much, and it just allows your mental space to have space for new inventions or creative breakthroughs. And actually, fun fact, a lot of people, especially one of the most famous examples is Einstein. He liked to just take walks and do nothing. That time when he did it, he intentionally took some boredom walks. And there also was some famous painter or inventor who deliberately set off 15 to 30 minutes a day and just sat and did nothing to kind of cultivate this boredom in his life. Basically, when Einstein did these walks and when he was bored, and when he the time when he deliberately kind of set off time for that, these times attributed to his most breakthroughs, allegedly. I don't know, I haven't talked to him about that, but allegedly it was like this. So the biggest inventions and breakthroughs come when we have the space in our mind for that idea to come to our mind. Because if it's filled with something, with all that clutter, there's very low possibility it's gonna come through something and to tell you, okay, you know what, this would be actually a good idea. No, it can't come to you because you've been thinking about myriad of other things. I don't want to give an example, but myriad of other things. The other thing is it helps you to find purpose. It helps you to find meaning. It helps you to answer life's questions that are hard to answer. And as uncomfortable as it sounds, it's very useful because most things that are comfortable for us, they are comfortable for a reason, and maybe not everything is beneficial. I don't know if going to sleep outside in the winter in your pajamas when it's snowing outside would somehow benefit you. It's uncomfortable, but I don't know if there's a beneficial factor to it. In this case, it is beneficial because in these moments of boredom, some questions will surface of why am I doing this? Why am I with this person? Why? Because recently I was in a situation where I immersed myself so much I kind of realized that I am immersing myself into community and a person per se, and I'm just focusing all my energy on that person and on the community in general, that I don't remember the last time I felt bored. And it kind of stopped, and it kind of ended in a very saddish way, maybe not, but I got so much clarity from that situation. I'm like, wait. I actually, before immersing myself into something that I didn't really need, or maybe needed, but it's not healthy to immerse yourself so much into something else so rapidly. I was thinking, and I kind of reflected that it's not healthy, like, doing this. I was avoiding my own troubles. I was kind of staying away from things and avoiding boredom by constantly like, interesting, what this? Or like, okay, I'm gonna be at 7 there. Or like, I constantly had something to do. And I think it's not only with like social media, as I said, and entertainment. You can also entertain yourself with other people. You can entertain yourself with other things. You can entertain yourself with other people's problems and think that you can solve them. And there are so many things that you can entertain yourself with that will keep you away from actually getting to know answers to the questions that are so important to get answers to. So in these moments, you can get, as I said, these questions could arise. And it's very useful if you're actually gonna answer them and try to answer them, and rather than avoid them and like suppress them even further into some darkened box underneath the ground, which will then explode into the ground that you were standing on will be shaken. That is some very interesting metaphor I just came up with, but nevertheless, it also helps you to deal with your emotions. Gives you some mental clarity, because when you not only answer these questions that arise or that would arise, you also not numb yourself and let yourself experience all kind of emotions, and that will give you mental space and mental clarity. And one of the last things I think is it's not only going to give you mental clarity, it will help you to rest. And what I mean by that is when you constantly suppress something, when you constantly try to hide from yourself something, when you constantly do something like this, it's hard and your brain works over time. And when you just sit in silence, it's practically not like meditation, but meditation is beneficial in all ways it could be. Sitting with your thoughts and just maybe trying to, I don't know. No, I think boredom is just like sitting and embracing your thoughts. So sitting and embracing your thoughts and not distracting yourself for 5, 10, 15 minutes is beneficial, and it helps your brain and your head make space for things that are important. And also interesting thing which I didn't mention is it helps you to strengthen your connection with other people, because when we feel boredom, and again, I wish I would, when we're less distracted, we reconnect more meaningfully with people and empathize more. When we have the mental capacity to not only understand our own feelings but someone else's, we become better listeners, better friends, and just better people to connect with. And we just and also in these moments of, I don't know why they gave it as an example, but in these moments of when we kind of feel boredom and we realize that what we're doing is meaningless and we need to do something else, and we try to find a meaning in things, and we try to do something meaningful. And what we can do is, as an example, it was given that in one of the studies, like, I think it was a study or not, but people were feeling like they weren't doing enough, or what they were doing was meaningless, and they decided to give meaning to someone by donating their blood. And that, I vastly agree that it is giving meaning, and it's meaningful to donate the blood. But I was reading through it and I'm like, interesting example in this. I don't know if it was a study or was it just an article, but we feel the urge to kind of benefit someone's life, or because we feel the lack of meaning, we want to make someone's life meaningful in a way, if you understand what I mean. And that's all for this. The next, I think, few minutes, I'm gonna just tell you how to do it. Maybe I'll give you a few seconds to think of what the first one would be. Think about it. Yes, you have to reframe your thoughts. You have to change your mindset. You have to reframe your thoughts, because if you gonna constantly think that, as I said, because social media showcases it like this, that boredom is useless and it just takes time and it doesn't benefit me and all these things, you kind of prone to avoid it. Because if I were told by my parents how good vegetables are and how amazing they are and that I should eat them, and I never seen them eating them, it would like I would feel dissonance in my head, like, okay, they're so good but you're not eating them, why should I eat them, because it's very also hard to kind of schedule for yourself these times of boredom, or like do these things intentionally, because very few people around you do that. And it's like this dissonance of, oh, okay, if it's useful, why no one does that? Like, if it's useful, it brings so many benefits, why no one does that? But you also have to understand this like concept of that people try to avoid these like negative feelings and these negative things per se. So yeah, it's one of the things people just try to avoid, these negative feelings and all these things. And even though society portrays it like this, not everything that is useful people are vastly doing. They just but it's an interesting dissonance that I just came up with in my head with like vegetables. And we could also feel dissonance when I tell you, for example, that it's a useful thing, but when you turn around, really few people actually do it. So yeah. Also, just remember that I have to walk my dog, which is a like very interesting information for you to know. And when you do that, when you I don't think it's like a process that you have to like first reframe your mind, then do this and then do this. No, I think it's a gradual process. All of it's a gradual process. So you have to, as you go, change and reframe your mind about it. And no surprise, you have to actually schedule when you're gonna feel bored, when you're gonna have these like sessions of boredom. I think the most important thing is when you have these sessions of boredom not to fall asleep, because if you're gonna schedule your sessions of boredom just like lie on the bed and look at the ceiling, I would be prone to fall asleep. It doesn't also have to be like this. You don't have to just like sit and do nothing. You could engage in very low mental space abilities. Mental space, I don't know if it pronounced like washing dishes or crocheting or I don't know, painting, or maybe they are not but you understand what I mean. There's not only like the only thing that you can do is just sit in front of your wall and just like look at it. No, you can go wash dishes. You can do some kind of activities that don't really distract you and give you a lot of dopamine, and that is in a way, that is how your mind relaxes and rests. So it's beneficial. Also, one of the things that you should be on lookout for, it's not gonna like benefit you like straightforwardly with like boredom, but you have to at least try to avoid passive consumption. You have to, it's very easy to consume everything because we have it in our pocket, because we have, I don't know, Apple Watches, and we can listen to music and podcasts, and we have these like pockets full of this like in this brick, that this brick has everything, every information in the world which you could want, and it's very easy to just passively consume something. But that's why I gave you examples of like crocheting or painting or something. It's much better to do something like this and at least for a moment feel boredom and not feel this like constant adrenaline rush. Just like slowly live your life. It's better to start off like this and just like schedule for yourself breaks of boredom for 20 minutes, and you're like, okay, nothing changed, bye. You have to do it gradually. Also, I think one of the very useful things, not only in boredom aspect, just in your life in general, is journaling. I think it's very useful after these sessions of boredom that you'll have, or for example, when you will just wash dishes without music or TV show, or I don't know, take a shower without any TV show or music. Kind of write down the thoughts that are appearing. It's like morning pages. There's like practice that after you wake up, it's very useful to write down full 3 pages. It could be just description of what dream you had, or just plans for today, or just what happened yesterday. Just like write, fill in full 3 pages, A5 format. And it's kind of the same thing. You just, what thoughts arise? That is what you have to focus on. That's what you have to work through. And I think the most important thing is just give yourself time and be patient, because again, we are very focused on the result. And if it's, I'm not gonna feel something right after, why am I doing this? It's useless. You know, I was like this with morning pages. I did it for, I think, like 2 weeks, and I'm like, nothing changed. Bye. And then I'm looking back and I understand how clear my mind was and how amazing I felt during these 2 weeks, and that right now I'm considering going back to morning pages, because back then I didn't see the results. Now that I'm comparing my life to that moment, I'm like, yeah, I see the results. Yeah, I see the results. So this is the most important thing. This is the last step. Sure, I could give you a challenge and like challenge you to schedule a day. At least you don't have to do this every day. You can start off like once a week. And you don't have to like schedule 30 minutes without phone, 30 minutes without social media. No, just crochet for 30 minutes or paint something or play on guitar, piano, because it's much better to just like gradually go from social media content to just like, okay, I'll play piano a little bit, I'll read a little bit, and gradually do something like this. So this is all I have for you for today. If you liked this video and you like hearing me talk about some topics, here are some other videos you can watch, and I'll see you in a week. Hopefully I'm gonna be actually punctual with these videos, and I'm actually gonna do them once a week.